Come join Melissa and her guests on the Chats from the Blog Cabin podcast. From North Carolina, this podcast will have you feeling like you've known these folks for years. Listen in as they chat about life, culture, current events, and more, all with a special Southern flair. Curl up with your favorite beverage and get ready to be entertained. Tune in now for a unique experience that's fun and insightful.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Chats from the Blog Cabin. Today we're chatting with children's book author and podcast host, Erika Bud. Erika, thank you for coming on and sharing with us travel rangers. And of course, right now, I am at an Air Force base. And of course, right now, a big jet goes overhead.
It only happens when you're recording.
Yep. And it's perfect because we're talking about traveling. And of course, an airplane goes over.
There you go. I planned that.
So tell us a little about yourself before we start talking about what you do.
Sure. So I am originally from California. I'm in Illinois now. I have a 9-year-old son, a single mom. And let's see, I know we're going to talk about it, but I've had a career path that's gone everywhere. But for the first time, I'm finally doing something that fulfills me. And that's with my children's book and my podcast. And they're both related to inspiring families to travel abroad.
Yeah, because you did have a varied career. Like you just said, you were, you were business administration. Then you went to LA police officer. Then you were an au pair. You were an au pair, I think, when you were earlier. And now you're a children's book author and a podcaster. So let's start with the business administrator and the au pair.
Yeah. So I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated, as a lot of people don't. But I knew I wanted to go to college, so I just got a degree in business administration, and I got a great job right out of college. That I worked my way up to a director of business administration, which, dream job out of college, right? It just wasn't fulfilling to me. It was my first job. I just wanted to see what was out there, and I always wanted to help people. So I thought I would use my education to help me find people. Like my goal was to be a detective and to use my smarts to help people. So I joined LAPD, but I soon discovered that that's not what it's really like as a police officer. It's not, you can't be there with the goal to help people. So unfortunately that didn't last long, but since then I've just really been searching. I've always known I want to help people. I've never wanted to have a career that so many people I was surrounded by were doing their job because it paid the bills. They didn't do it because it was fulfilling and it lit up their day. And, that saying in the back of my mind was always there, the do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Uh-huh.
I had been searching for that my whole life. So I just kept trying different careers and I went marketing and business and sales. And, I did my au pair when I was 18, actually. So it was before I really got started, because that was something I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to travel abroad. Now, I don't know why, because I'd never been around anyone that traveled anywhere. In fact, when I first went, several family members asked me why I would want to go. So why I had that itch to travel, I don't know. I mean, same with helping people. I don't know, because it's not like I was really around that. It's just, they both spoke to me. So I kept searching. And then this recently, I'm in my 40s now. I was miserable at my last job. I was absolutely miserable. It was supposed to be this fulfilling job, and it wasn't anything I thought it would be. And so before I changed careers again, I was like, okay, you really have to figure out what you're going to do. And that led me to, again, travel. And I'm doing both now. I'm still in travel and I'm helping people. And I'm helping people by educating them about different cultures and countries. I'm helping them with my podcast to give them inspiration and courage to travel abroad with their families. So I feel like I'm doing both. And for the first time, I'm finally fulfilled.
Do you think all the things that you have done in your life, being the au pair, being in business administration, being LAPD, those experiences led you to where you are now and helped you to become in the career that you are, has helped you in that career?
Honestly, I think they kept me focused as to what I don't want to do and what, it's like, okay, I really don't I'm not fulfilled in this type of role. Like I never wanted to climb the corporate ladder. Kudos to everybody who does. That just wasn't for me. I knew that wasn't going to be for me. And anytime I started going down that path where work was starting to become my life, I kind of backtracked a little bit. But like even being a police officer, I knew that I wanted to help people. I just need to find out how. So I've volunteered to kind of satisfy that. But I really knew that anything else would be settling. Traveling, I knew that I just got so much out of it that I knew that if I wasn't doing something where I could travel, at least personally or professionally, that I wasn't going to be satisfied. Now, unfortunately, as Americans, the average American, what we get like 2 weeks off vacation, you can't really travel abroad that much with 2 weeks vacation because by the time you visit a family member or a friend, or your vacation's gone basically. So that's how I knew that I definitely wanted to have a career to where I could have that flexibility to travel. So I think just my varied path, it just helped me. Like I kept focusing on what did I like about this? What did I not like about this? And I just tried to learn from every path I chose and tried to think that it's okay to not know what you're doing. I think it's just as long as you learn from what you are doing and eventually you'll get there. But you have to, like, I really had to commit to it when I made this choice. I made this choice a year and a half ago. You have to commit to yourself. I mean, you really do. I had to put myself first. I had to put myself before, having a high paying career, because I took a dive. I mean, as a author, a self-published author, you start off with nothing and I'm paying for everything. So I had to really believe, I had to remember my why. I had to know my why. I had to believe in my why. I had to believe that I deserve to be fulfilled. And I just have to, like right now, I just have to believe that this will work out. This will pan out, that following my passion and what fulfills me is the right thing.
So why did you decide to take that author role and say, okay, I'm going to write about cultures? How much time did you invest in investigating these cultures?
So I've been to a little over 30 countries, and most of that I did in my 20s or earlier. I started at 18 and I did most of it in my 20s. And I've continued to travel, but I tend to go back to countries I've already gone to. So Australia was my first book, and I chose Australia because I lived there for 3 years. So that one I knew a lot about. It had a special place in my heart. It was also the first country I took my son to. So that one that's how I chose that. But the next book is going to be on Ireland. So I've been to Ireland twice before, but we went back this last summer and we just spent 2 weeks, and I was really with my whole goal as to what I'm going to write about. And I had my son with me. He was 8 last year. So it was really important to have him there with me because I'm actually writing the book right now. And I was just asking him 2 days ago, I'm like, okay, so what did you like about Ireland? What was fun for you? So to share that with other kids. That's how I plan to do my research now. As he gets older, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm just going to have to pick his brain, but I'll do my best.
That's what I was just going to ask you, how having your son there is helping you, because you're getting your child's eye view about what they think, because sometimes what they see may be something that as adults we don't see.
100%. And it's funny too, because I can't even write him off. And he's a huge advantage to me writing my children's book. But I just found out I can't even write that off, which was a shock to me. But no, I'm going to continue to bring him wherever I plan on writing, because even though as he gets older, I'm still going to have a different perspective. And to your point, I learned that perspective is different. I mean, as a parent, but we gave him a camera, right? And so we all had our cameras, but we gave him a camera, and that was the first time I've done this. And you just see a different perspective right there, because what he thinks is interesting to take a picture of is very different than what you think is important. So it just goes to show you that kids look at it from completely different eyes, and his perspective has definitely helps me with my book for sure.
That's another thing that I want to bring about is how kids look at the world differently as well, because kids don't see a lot of the prejudice. Like once you get to adults, you see prejudice. Kids don't see a lot of prejudice. So how has seeing the world through your son's eye help you to get that across in your books as well?
Well, I think it's kind of, that's the whole reason why I write and do the podcast, is because I want to introduce people to different cultures. I want people to be more accepting of others' differences. I want them to stop saying it's wrong, but it's different, and that's something that when I speak at schools, I focus on at the end, is it's not wrong, it's different. And my son, so for the first time I took him out of the country was to Australia. We had a layover in China for a whole day. So instead of staying at the airport, I got a visa and we went into the city for the day. And, just seeing it through his eyes and seeing it, that's when you start to realize that kids, what's fascinating to them, and it's just really starting to like melt your heart, just going, wow, just something as simple as that, like the lights, look at the lights, mommy. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's not something you're used to seeing, or the scooters or whatever. But for me, the biggest thing for me, because honestly, I was a parent that had no desire to travel with my child until he was at least a teenager and could remember it, because it's a lot of money. It's not cheap. And I'm a single parent and it's not cheap. However, I ended up taking him to Australia because it was either I had friends invite me to go stay with them. And it's like, well, we could stay here for New Year's or we could go to Australia. So let's go. And it changed my whole life. And what started to change it for me was, yes, when I was seeing him look out the window, but on our way back, when we were waiting in the airport, there was a little Chinese boy. They were playing on the moving walkway, and my son Hayden was playing on the moving walkway as well. And neither one of them could understand anything that they were saying, but they were having the time of their lives. And it really just makes you realize, it's like, people, like, if kids could just see that, they don't see color, they don't see anything. All they see is he smiled and he wants to play. And that's all that really matters. Right. And that's what I'm doing my best with these picture books, to try to encourage other people in my podcast, to try to encourage families to take that leap, take your kids, because it's those little things that you don't realize that make a difference and impact them as they grow up.
That is so true. Right now we have to take a brief commercial break, but we'll be right back.
People welcomed me, and they knew the pain of the journey that we'd been on because they'd been there too.
Other Parents Like Me is an online community, peer-led, for parents with kids struggling with mental health and or substances.
It's a space that's safe. Feels like I can actually share what's going on.
We offer 15 daily support groups per week and live speaker talks on Thursdays, as well as a monthly expert panel.
We also have a resource hub that has a toolkit. This includes over 1,000 articles, podcasts. There's a glossary with the most recent and relevant terms. And we have a directory that's been vetted.
The overwhelming feeling when we're sitting in a meeting and I'm telling my story and I see others shaking their head, tears falling, they understand this roller coaster and they're along for the ride.
And we are back chatting with Erika. Erika is the author of Travel Rangers Mission to Australia and the host of the podcast Planes, Trains, and Kids Abroad. And we were just talking about how your son, you take him on your travels with you. Why did you decide to target kids for that?
Because I figured that if I can start with kids, getting them excited about other countries and starting to be open to other cultures, it's better to start the younger the better. And then hopefully as they get older, and they'll either start to, something about my book is that my book is a little different in that it includes augmented reality technology, which basically it has real life footage of some of the things that they're reading about in the book. And what it does is it makes it more of a family reading event, because adults are interested in it as well. So the kids and the adults are learning about another country and another culture. So if I start by kids, then I also get parents as well, right? So it's both. So not only am I starting to to plant that seed when they're younger. But because I'm starting with kids, I'm also able to encourage families as well. So hopefully I'm getting more people that way.
So let's talk about, you've already said that you went through and you left your job, your high paying job, and you took that leap to become a self-published author. You're a single parent. And let's talk about that huge leap, because you had to have a lot of faith in yourself to be able to do this.
I did.
So what was going through your mind when you said, okay, I'm going to do this. I have to do this for myself?
I was just so tired of being unhappy and unfulfilled. I mean, I was dreading every single day. And I am very much of the mindset that life is short. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. I think we live for the one days. One day I'll be able to do this. One day I hope I'll be able to do this. That bucket list we never get done. And it just snapped. Like I was just done after 25 years of trying to figure it out. It's like, you have to figure this out because you will not function this way. I mean, honestly, it was more for my self-care as well, because I wasn't happy. I mean, it affects your mental health when you're stressed or unhappy, or, you dread every single day. So it was I knew I had to do something for my own mental health, and it was putting me first.
So which came first, the book or the podcast?
Definitely the book. I never planned on doing the podcast ever. I wrote the first version of my book about 15 years ago, after I came back from Australia, with no intention of publishing it in bulk, like trying to actually sell it. It was always just that'd be nice to publish this book one day, just to say I did it. That's all it was ever intended for. And then when I decided to make this a career, that all changed. But it's funny, because when I was trying to figure out my career, this was one of the first things I wrote, writing about travel. I'm like, but I can't do that. Like, I pushed it to the side. I did. It was the first thing I wrote down, but I'm like, there's no way I can make this happen. And then it's like, well, why not? Because one of the things I used, the criteria to figure out what I wanted to do, was what I'm passionate about, what I could do really well, and what I can make money at. So I got the first two down. Now I was trying to actually make money so I could keep this going and keep writing more books and keep going with the podcast. But the podcast, it didn't fall in my lap. I had no idea that I wanted to do it. And then I was in Facebook groups, on different travel Facebook groups, different mom groups, different parent groups. Mm-hmm. And I just started realizing, I'm like, you know what? All these people are supporting each other on their trips. These parents that are scared to go on their own, and they're encouraging each other, and they're all sharing their stories when they get back. And I'm like, why not do a podcast? If these people are willing to share it on Facebook, why wouldn't they be willing to share it in a podcast, and people would be listening to it to relate to it? So I just realized that I could reach more parents that way. And that's what gave me the idea to do the podcast. It's the same mission for the book and the podcast, to inspire families to travel abroad and learn about cultures. So
I just love that. And you said the first one was Australia, because that was where you lived for several years, and your next book is Ireland. What other books do you have planned out?
I think it really, it was going to be Italy next, but I'm actually working because of the last two podcast guests I've had, which I haven't released it yet, but they both inspired me to live in another country for a little while with my son. So I'm in the process of trying to figure out so that my son and I could go live in Spain for a month in March. So yeah, it's a pretty, like I said, I wasn't planning on it. My podcast guests, they just inspired me to try it. And so now I'm trying to go figure out how to live in Spain for a month. So I'm going to definitely be writing about Spain, since I'll be living there.
Wow. That's a huge leap as well. It sounds to me like you're not afraid to take chances.
No, I'm not. And I think it's funny, because I kind of should be, because my au pair experience was in Spain, was in Madrid, and it was an awful experience. I'm not going to lie. Wow. It was an awful experience. So I should have been scared to travel abroad again, but it did the opposite. It just made me determined to have a better experience. And it also showed me that if you can get through that on your own, then you can get through anything on your own. And so it gave me the courage to keep going. So, I feel like you kind of need to push yourself. What I love about traveling on your own or on your own with a child is that you realize that you can do anything. You really do. I don't think people realize just how strong they are
Mhm.
and how they can they'll figure it out when they have to, you know? And that's one of the things I love about traveling on your own. That's what it gave me when I first went. It gave me the courage and the strength to realize I could do anything.
So I just had an idea pop in my head and it just went right out as soon as it popped in. Um, so what are some of the things that when you go to other countries, what should people think about before they, when they start planning their trips? What should they have? What should they be thinking about?
So one of the biggest things that I try to stress on people is that you're going into a different country. Don't force them to be what's in your country, right? It's you have to go in with an open mind and embrace another culture. One thing that I think other people don't like, especially Americans when we travel, is we try to do this how we do it in America. Like we try to make it how we have it in America instead of just embracing another culture. So my biggest thing is go with an open mind. Just accept that things are going to be different. And it's not, my other thing is it's not wrong. It's just different. I try to take wrong out of your vocabulary because it's not. I mean, we're different to them. That doesn't mean we're wrong. Certain things could be done better no matter where you are in the world, but it's really having that mindset of just embracing a new culture, and it's not wrong. It's just different. I also try to say, like, if you've never been ever out of the country, I might suggest like a group. Like my first big trip out of the country was I joined a group, and I was on my own. But the reason why I liked it was because it can be overwhelming when you're first traveling out of the country. And the good thing about a group is that they plan everything for you. They make sure, you're staying in a decent hotel and not in a bad area, or getting from point A to point B. Someone's always accountable for you. So that's really good when you're traveling for the first time, even as a family, a couple, single, it doesn't really matter. There's a different type of group for everybody, from cruises to tour groups, like bus groups, to all kinds out there. And if you are going to do it on your own, which is fine too, but you just have to be flexible because things are not going to go 100% as planned. It's just different cultures, different things happen. Too many things need to line up. And if you have that in your mindset, that go with the flow versus every single detail planned out, you're going to be so much happier. You're going to be so much happier. Not only that, but if you don't have every single detail planned out, you can welcome something new. Like, say, for example, you're driving along and your itinerary says we're going to be here for lunch, but then you see something on, as you're driving by, and it's like, what's that? Well, if you're so strict with your itinerary, you might miss out on something really cool, So that's more, some little bit more advice. And then my last thing is delays happen. Almost every time you travel, delays happen. And what I like to stress, especially on parents, is how you react is going to affect your kids. So you really got to find it in yourself to, no matter how frustrated it is, hold it together, because that's going to set the tone, the mood for your whole trip. So
that is so true, especially when you heard horror stories this past summer about families getting stuck places with the airlines. What are some tips that you could give parents when you're traveling with kids, when you have these delays, like things that they could have on hand, things that are things that they, not even to have on hand, but ideas of things that they can maybe do in the airport just to kind of keep their kids occupied?
Yeah, honestly, because I've actually looked this up, and there are more games that you can play in an airport than you realize. And the wonderful thing about Google is everybody's already thought about these ideas for you. So my advice is just to prepare, look up some ideas. You can play things as like scavenger hunts in airports. You can play, there's games out there like, I promise you, if you Google it, there's like a list of like 25 different airport games. I always have, depending on the age of your kid, I always have my son, he packs a toy bag. Now, it's nothing else is in this, just for toys or books or whatever is in there. And he has to pack it. That way it's going to be something that I know he wants to versus me. He's responsible for that bag. He transports it everywhere. And even though, like now with video games, you could you could take those everywhere. I don't let him touch the video games until we're actually on the airplane, because I don't want him to run out of battery. I don't want him to get sick of it, because you can't guarantee you're going to be able to charge anything on the airplane. Not all flights are the same. Our airplanes are the same, right? So don't take any chances. Save that for the airplane and do what you can while you can move around. Play, you can play. I'm drawing a blank on the different games, but I promise there's a bunch of different games that families can do in airports to try to make time go by, or just have them bring toys. Toys go, coloring, drawing. You can play I mean, whatever. You can find something to play. But I do encourage parents to do that in addition to, I'm assuming every kid out there plays video games now. Just don't have that be your sole focus, because you can't guarantee you're gonna be able to charge it. You can't guarantee you're gonna have access to that, or the TVs on the plane.
Yeah, that's so true, because like this summer I flew to California and I flew 2 different airlines. I flew one way. I flew at Delta, and then I flew American back, and the American, you had to use your own devices to watch TV, and Delta you had, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why do we have to use our own devices? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, what my son and I just got back from Colorado, we were on Southwest, and he's like, Mom, is there going to be a TV on the plane? I'm like, I don't know, bud. So again, he wasn't allowed to play video games till he was on there. But like I had to, when he was done with video games, I had to load it on my phone, the Southwest, internet to get it to work. But other than that, he would have just played with his toys. So that's why it's always good to have a backup. The other thing I want to make sure, because you can't plan on delays, you can be delayed on the actual runway, right? I mean, a lot of people, not runway, but tarmac, I guess it's called, where you can be stuck in an airplane. So I also advise that bring plenty of snacks, because the last thing you want is a hangry family.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're an adult or a kid. We all get hangry, and that's the last thing you want. So to bring snacks, and like, again, I don't let my son eat those snacks until we're on the plane, because if you eat them all there and then you get stuck on the runway or the tarmac, you're going to be in bad shape again. So same with going to the bathroom. No matter what, even if he doesn't have to go, I make him go every single time before we're going to get on, because I've been in that situation where it's like, oh, I don't need to go yet. I don't need to go yet. And then I'm like stuck, and I'm like, oh God, I can't get up. What am I going to do?
Yep.
You just have to plan for, not plan for the worst, but plan for things to come up and do your best to prevent them from affecting you.
And then that way you don't feel so out of control. So at least you feel like you still are in some sense of control, and like you're not so, because you're already nervous a little bit when you get on the plane anyways, because you're like, you don't know how long, if it's going to be delayed, if there's going to be turbulence or anything else. So you kind of want to have some sense of, okay, things are going to be okay, because I've got my part that I can control.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but going to the restroom is a simple thing. Like I'm like, no, I'll be fine until I get to the airport, till I land. And then, I had this happen to me 2 trips ago, where it's like, sorry, folks, the weather, we're going to have to go to another state over, and we weren't going to be able to land, but due to turbulence, we couldn't get up. And it's like, oh man, I should have gone when I had the chance. So not waiting. But speaking of delays, though, not everybody downloads the airline app. Even if you're only going for that one time that year, I still really encourage people to download the app. I'm sure most people have heard of the, Southwest, how they had all those delays in Christmas time. We were one of those people. But we had the app, and that really did help, because I was able to rebook my flight with the app. Not that it got canceled anyway, but the point was I was able to do it on my app, whereas the family sitting next to me, they stood in line for 2 hours to get on that flight. Wow. So I strongly recommend that app, even if you just download it for the flight, and then once you're back, get rid of it. That's fine. But you can make changes on there, and it is worth it, saving that time, because 2 hours online is not worth it to anyone.
I totally agree with you, because on my flight back with American, I had already checked in and got the notification that there was a delay, because the flight coming in was delayed coming in. So we were going to have a 2-hour delay. So that way I didn't have to leave to go back to the airport.
Exactly.
As soon as I would have been stuck at the airport. And then once we got there, they had already rebooked us. But then when I got there, the guy was like, hey, I see where you're supposed to be getting out, flying out at 1:00 from Charlotte. But guess what? I can book you out at 8 o'clock in the morning in Charlotte. I said, yes, thank you, because I would have been up all night because it was a red eye. So I'm like, thank you.
But you're right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the app is how we found out, because when that whole Southwest issue was going on during Christmas, our flight was a 4 o'clock flight, I believe. We didn't get the text that our flight was delayed until midnight. Like that 4 o'clock flight, we didn't get the text that it was delayed until midnight. Obviously, that was way past the time, but it was just, I happened to check the app when we were leaving our driveway to make sure everything was on time, and it said canceled. And that's how I found out it was canceled, because a lot of people rely on the text alert, or, it didn't work. So, yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend checking in through the app. Just to, even if you're going to check in at the airport too, check in on the app, because you never know. They might upgrade you too while you're up there. Don't want to say
that is true. That is true. You can get complimentary upgrades.
Because my daughter a couple of times got upgraded through the app. So
nice.
You never know.
So, these little things, they're just little things, right? But they're not difficult to do, and they really can save a lot of headache and frustration.
So tell people where they can get your book at.
So you have my website, bigworldpub.com. That's where you can get the book, or go listen to the podcast as well. And yeah, that's the best place to find out more information about schools. I visit schools as well. That's the best place.
Okay. You just mentioned that you visit schools. Is it just schools local to your area, or do you actually go out to other schools?
So I'm in Illinois. I have tried, I did one in California, and it was great. Because I used to live in California. So a friend, I went to her school to kind of test it out, how it would be. So I'm open to going anywhere, honestly. I just love speaking at schools, and it's especially with the augmented reality, when they see it for the first time, because most kids have never seen augmented reality technology. So when they see a book come to life, it's really fun to see their expression, the whole room just, wow, ooh, ah, it's really cool. So I know I'm making a difference at those moments, because it's clicking in their head. This is what a platypus looks like, or wow, that's a Tasmanian devil, or this is the Great Barrier Reef. It's sinking in, and I'm doing that. So
let's talk about augmented reality for those that don't know what that is. Tell us a little bit about that.
So augmented reality technology, and I don't know, because I'm not going to lie, I was ignorant before I even knew about it for my own book. So I don't know what it is in a general sense. I can only say what it does for my book. What they did is they made 3D models of different scenes for my book. And then, so for example, the Great Barrier Reef, they actually made 3D models, and there's you use an app. It's a free app. You scan a QR code, and then when you hold your device over the QR code, then the book comes to life in the app. So you'll see the Great Barrier Reef, and all of a sudden there's fish swimming around.
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
There's a turtle swimming, and there's an eel swimming. So that all of a sudden comes out as if it's a cartoon right in front of you on your device. And then what I've done to add to that is, so that's there in the front, and then in the background, it's like a little TV screen pops up, and mind you, this is all in just your device. A little TV screen pops up and shows real life footage of the actual barrier reef. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, but it's not on every page. I basically did it where I wanted the kids to truly experience what they were learning. So things that, like the Sydney Harbor, right? There's the Opera House, there's his Sydney Harbor Bridge. So there's a 3D version of it, and you can walk around and you can see the whole 3D model of this Sydney Opera House with the bridge with people walking on it. But in the background, you have the actual footage of the Sydney Harbor, so they can see what it really looks like. That way they can see, wow, this is real. This is a real place. It's not just a picture in a book, but it's a real place,
I love that. And I love the fact that you took that children's book a little bit further to make it so that the kids are engaged with the content. And that as a former teacher in me, that's oh yes, that the kids are going to want to learn more, and they're going to want to go to the library, and they're going to want to go look at videos, and they're going to want to go to YouTube and search and find more information about that, because you brought that to life for them.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, right? A lot of kids are so engaged with video games, which is fine, but this kind of brings them back to reading as well, because it's incorporating both. It makes learning fun. That's what I say. But on that note, I also did make lesson plans for teachers so that they can further encourage that learning.
I love that as well.
I did. I tried to make it good for teachers. I tried to help with teachers.
Well, I know our time is limited today because you have a party you have to go to. For
my son. It's his Valentine's Day party, so I'm organizing that party at his school.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on. If there is one thing that you want to leave people with, one little nugget, what would that be?
Can I do two? I think I'm gonna do two. My two nuggets are: just remember, when you meet people from other cultures, it's not wrong, it's just different. Just really try to have that mindset. And then the other one is if there's any desire to travel abroad, any desire at all, just don't wait. Try it, and you'll surprise yourself. Whether you're single, family, it doesn't matter. I mean, money issues are always going to be there, but tomorrow's not guaranteed, and you don't want that bucket list to never happen. Don't wait. Find a way to make it happen.
I love that. And where can people find you besides at your website?
Yeah. So on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My handle is at author Erika Bud, ErikaBud. You find me there. The podcast is Planes, Trains, and Kids Abroad. That's on almost any place you look for podcasts. And the book is on my website or on Amazon. That's Travel Rangers Mission to Australia. So the next one will be Travel Rangers Mission to Ireland.
I cannot wait.
Thank you so much.
Erika, thank you for coming on. And guys, I encourage you to get out there and travel, because the travel bug hit me last year, and now I cannot wait to travel more. And I have lots of travel plans for this year as well.
Good for you.
Thank you for coming on and for sharing with us and for creating this amazing book series for kids to get out. And even if they can't travel, to be able to travel through their imaginations to another country.
That's exactly right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So guys, we will see you on the next chat from the Blog Cabin. Bye.